Alright, so I rewatched my previous Tendril video, and it kind of sucked ass, honestly. It just wasn't very good, so let's remake it, and let's do it better this time for the people who are still progressing on this boss. First and foremost, let's talk about trinkets, right? Your trinket choice is going to be our single target set. It's going to be Augury of the Primal Flame and Cataclysmic Signet Brand. As far as talents, you see them on the screen here. The only difference, I think, if you would want to make a change, is if you were feeling a little more. You don't need to take Wrecking Throw. Wrecking Throw does about 800 to 800k to a million for a single talent point between both shield phases because they have damage amps on them, so I think it's worth taking. If you want to feel a little safer, you can take a point out of the slam talent and put it into pain and gain for a little more self-healing, but realistically, you don't really need that, especially at this point in gearing, so you can just put 2 points here and then a point in taking Wrecking Throw. There's also the discussion of whether or not you should go or build single target here, right? Whether or not you go Roar or Spear or go single target talents here. Honestly, you do not, us as warriors, we do not lose a lot of single target damage by going AoE talents over single target talents. It's mainly the difference between a little more execute with these talents and then spear damage. So realistically, running Roar, I also run 1 minute Roar on this fight. I think this is far better, regardless of your situation. Unless you're in some really like weird la la land of having like, I don't know, 3 demo warlocks and they're all playing AoE or something strange like that, which isn't realistically gonna happen. Just play your AoE talents, you're gonna be fine. In terms of what feather group you should be in, I'm not gonna go specifically over the mechanics. I'm not going to talk about your rotation, none of that shit. But you should be in the second feather group. It lines up way better with all of our cooldowns. If you follow what I'm going to do in the video, I'm also in the second feather group, so 100% if your raid leader's trying to figure out where to put people in which groups as far as feathers are concerned, warriors are very good at going into the second feather group. And then a small thing that can save your life on this fight is one thing that happens is if you Avatar removes roots. So Avatar will get you out of the root from Tendril. However, if you Avatar and then your Avatar buff is still active and then you use Odin's Fury and gain a little more Avatar, that won't cleanse your roots. You can Odin's Fury by itself and that will cleanse the root, but if your Avatar is already running and then you pop Odin's Fury, that will not cleanse your root. So make sure if you need to cleanse your root and you want to cleanse it, that you wait until it happens before using Avatar. Otherwise, you could be stuck in the root, could die to a fire beam, that kind of thing. And now talking about where we like to use our potions. Well, I'll just start playing the video, playing the VOD, and then I'll talk about where I use my potions. Move this up. Sorry, I have lunch here. I like to start the fight with a double charge to get enough rage to cast Rampage, because I want to maximize my damage, right? So I'm going to Rampage into Odin's Fury. But the primary thing that I'm doing in this situation is over everything else, I want to use Bloodthirst every other global. The reasoning is I want my Odin's Fury to be back up before this root set goes off. So no matter what I'm doing, every other global, I'm hitting Bloodthirst, because I really want my Odin's Fury off for the root set. It is possible that your Odin's Fury will not pop, or you won't get enough crits for Odin's Fury to come up, but most of the time you will get your Odin's Fury up for this. And worst case scenario, I think this may happen here, is where I will pre-Whirlwind, and then I will use hitting a bunch of targets for my Odin's Fury with Bloodthirst to get that crit, to get the cooldown reduction. Now, after you Odin's Fury, you should have the legendary by this point. After you Odin's Fury, it doesn't show on my raid frames here, but I've just applied the dot to every single target, which means you can instantly activate your legendary, and as these die very, very fast, we'll see the hit there. This is a 750k raw hit onto the boss. Meaning if my legendary active crit, that's 1.5 million damage on the boss, just because we're using all of the dots from those from the active here, from the Odin's Fury active, using all the dots for the legendary active to superpower it into the boss, where it's the most important. Falling from here, it's going to be your standard stuff. You're going to move the boss, the fire beam is going to come down, and it's essentially do not hit, just don't hit people, just don't hit the fire beam, man. Play safe, don't hit the fire beam. A lot of people use this second set. This is where I will potion, my first potion. And they will use this second set for everybody to break their roots, and there's going to be a lot of damage going out. This is where I save most of my damage for. My Avatar, Recklessness, Roar combo, right? This is where I save the damage. So here I will pre-potion, and then I will also be using Enrage Regeneration. Enrage Regeneration, I don't think it's as important now, but I use it here specifically because a lot of people, while they're trying to hide from the fire beams coming in, will actually end up stacking on top of each other and have a chance, sometimes a decent chance to just kill you if they stack too heavily. And that's happened before. So I Enrage Regeneration here just because I want to make sure that I'm not going to die to being stacked out by a root. I also want to make sure, because I have this damage resistance, that I can set up near the middle of the group so my my abilities are going to hit everything. So I've potioned, you pop everything, you get the damage out. I believe that once the roots turn into treants, that your dots still carry over to them. Yeah, because you can see this treant still has my dot, Odin's Fury, and a lot of them still have Roar on them. So when they transition from a root to a treant, they keep all your dots. You don't have to hold them. But this is where I use all of my cooldowns. Killing these treants is very, very important. Every single raid-wide pulse does a good amount of damage and also destroys your teammates' FPS. This is our root set. I like to get the root that's in the fire. Whichever you're playing with, just pick an orb and go for it every time. I like to flap, and then fly forward when I go get my feather on the first and second platform. Just because if you use your Whirling Surge, your 3 cost, to get to your feather, you will not have it for this movement here. You'll actually only be able to surge forward. And on the way to the second platform, when this happens again, if you use your Whirling Surge early on the feather instead of using it for this transition here, you will get to the platform and only be able to use your cooldowns later than what you would like to. So remember, when you get your feather, flap, surge forward, and that's all you really need to get to the that's all you need to get there. If you want to, you can hit the boss as it's coming down. But this is where you see we have a 50% damage amp. Here's what I like to do on these shield phases. I'll wait until the shield pops, because until that 50% damage amp happens, or until the shield starts, you don't get that damage amp. So what I like to do is I like to build Rage, and then here, you see I proc a Recklessness. This is what I like to fish for. I like to fish for a Recklessness proc right here, because that means once I activate my Odin's Fury, I'm going to have Recklessness and the Avatar damage bonus for when I use my Wrecking Throw. So it has its maximum chance to do the most amount of damage that it can. This is where I'll also use my second Roar of the fight. We're here on the first shield. We use Odin's Fury, our Roar, and our Wrecking Throw. We used to lust this shield phase. But with the health nerf, if you lust this shield phase, depending on your damage, you can actually push the boss early and wipe your entire raid with an early push. So now moving on to the second platform, here's what my plan is for when I use my cooldown set. I'm going to be, the moment it comes up, I'll be using Odin's Fury. And then for the first root set of the fight, I'm going to be using my Avatar and Recklessness combo. The reason for that is that's the most amount of boss damage I'm going to be able to get in this phase. So I want to use my Avatar Reckless combo here, and because I use it on the first set, it means that when we go to the third platform, I have everything ready for that shield phase and that shield set, which is super, super good. But what I like to do here is I wait until I'm able to hit everything, because when you also activate Avatar, you activate Odin's Fury. So now everything, once again, is dotted by the Legendary. This is where I will break my root with my Avatar, and then I will pop the Legendary again, soaking in all that dot damage, and then using it to hit the boss with. I don't get the full amount of damage on the boss here, just depending on when all of these Fiery Vines die, but just getting more than what you normally would by just using the Legendary raw by itself is way better. And then here is my strategy for seeds. My personal strategy for seeds is Warrior is, interestingly enough, one of the best classes at being able to get a seed that's far away from the group, because your leap only takes 1 second to get from where you are to where you're going. So what I like to do is I just sit on the boss, and then I wait a little bit. I see where everybody's at. I see someone's probably going to get this. This is probably going to get taken. So most likely, I'm going to leap over here and grab one of these. And because you can't double soak now, you're chilling. So I like to hold my leap and just wait a little bit and see what might need help. Because if you instantly eat a seed that's next to the boss, other classes that can't actually get to those farther seeds in a faster fashion, right? You would probably take multiple dashes from your DH, which they're probably using from damage. The rogues don't really want to get off the boss. We have a feral druid who, even though it can dash and go pretty fast, that's still more time that they would rather be on the boss. But we can just leap out and charge back in. So that's where I think it's most valuable for us. Something I did not mention before, but every single falling star is when you want to use your Spell Reflect. Every single time. Falling Star does a ton of damage, leaves stuff on the floor that can do extra damage to you. It is arcane, so Spell Reflect works against it. I did not use Spell Reflect here because I'm a dummy. Also, and then now I do need to talk about our next set of cooldowns. You see I have Roar and Odin's Fury up. Hold your Odin's Fury for this. You're going to get all of these. This is your second seed set, and then you're going to want to Odin's Fury and Roar into the roots that are coming up. This one, I do go a little faster. I try and look around and see where the seed concentration is, but because the root set is coming in, we don't have nearly as much time to wait and then look and then leap to get where we want to go. So I, on this second set, like to see and just try and get one of these far seed sets. And if everybody got them, I don't worry about it. This is where your Odin's Fury and then your Roar and do a bunch of damage because you do not have any feathers to break these roots, to break the vines, right? And now upcoming, we have our next feather set. So I will go get my feather, and away we go. Once again, same thing, flap, flap, and you can do 2 surge forwards if you'd like to get there faster. But one thing that is important to note about that last feather set that we just did, I do not use leap for that feather set. The reason I don't use leap on that feather set is because of this situation here, where now, if I would have used leap previously, I would not have a leap charge for this these seed sets, and I have wiped to this seed set because I did not have a leap charge to grab stuff. See? If I didn't have a leap charge, wouldn't have been able to get it. And this is what I also mean by holding lust for the third phase. If we would have lusted, this boss would have been lower, and when he starts his seed phase, he puts a dot on the entire raid. If he puts that dot on the entire raid, and then transitions at 40% like he normally would, your raid just dies. Because you're taking damage from the dot, you're taking damage from this little not pushback here. And then once again, if you use your Whirling Surge, you cannot keep up. Right? You cannot keep up here. But most of the time for these, it's DPS's job to go to the platform as quick as possible. Your raid leader should have assigned who's going where, because there are some orbs to pick up over here and behind the boss. Tanks normally get the ones behind the boss. one of the healers can get like this one, or the tank can get this one on his way, and there's another one that's like up above you over here that a healer should grab. Sometimes you'll get here and you're only going to have about 9 of these damage amps. It just happens, but that's okay. But this is where, for our next cooldown set, we're going to use our once again, our full sweep. You'll also notice with how the timing works out of using our potion on the second route of the first platform, our potion is also a minute 30 out. So he pops the shield. We use all our big cooldowns here. So now our cooldowns are also aligned with our potion for the last burn damage, for the last phase where you can burn everything together. After using Avatar Recklessness Roar, I will Rampage, Bloodthirst the boss, and then going to use our second Wrecking Throw. And then here I like to just basically send everything. You should be able to get with having 6 guaranteed crits, you should be able to get your Odin's Fury back quick enough for this next route set. If you don't and you get it midway through, it's fine. But once again, this is another situation where this route set lines up, once again, with our legendary active. So we want to try and dot all the routes around us. We want to get our Odin's Fury back off cooldown as soon as we can. But I'm going to dot all the routes around me and then instantly activate my legendary. And that did, I think, about 400k in the boss there. I clipped some of the routes, but did about 400k, so it's still worth it. Once again, I held my leap, but everybody was getting their stuff, so I didn't need to use it, so I just picked up a seed that was close. And this feather set is our feather set. You're going to notice that your Odin's Fury and your Roar are going to be coming up here, but because we are going up on a dragon, you do not want to use these, because the feather set after this is one of the most dangerous. Because the feather set after this is where we line up all of our cooldowns. We'll have our Roar, we'll have our Potion, we'll have everything. This is where you can use your Whirling Surge if you want. I honestly could have just, instead of flapping up, I could have used my Whirling Surge instantly. The reason being, now that we're on the third platform, there is no more flying to do. So we want to get up there and get back down here and break these routes as fast as possible. I use my leap there because we have a time spiral set up, so I do have a second leap charge for this. But now this route set is where we have all of our big cooldowns coming in. There's no feathers coming up. This route set goes into a fire beam relatively quickly after, so this route set needs to die. So that is why we'll have all of our cooldowns, we'll have our potion. Pot, use your cooldown, blow these routes up, put as much damage into the boss as you can. We had some deaths there because I don't think we had enough people saving damage for the roots. But here with our damage, before we have anything big coming up, there's one more feather set. But with our damage, we could have just held W on the boss. However, one thing that I do want to know on this boss is they removed it from All Stars, and in terms of parsing, it doesn't matter. This boss for parsing doesn't matter at all. Worthless for parsing. So do your job, first and foremost. Get your feather, don't die to fire beams, get your seed, do your job. Even when it's like this, probably should just still go up and get your feather for the bomb. Because if you don't, there's a possibility that your entire raid wipes. This is where I'll use and save my next Odin's Fury charge. Once again, saving your leap. We had a really weird seed situation here. So, saved your leap, got the seed. As far as melee DPS is concerned, this fight's not very hard for melee DPS. You grab your seed, you dodge the beam, you get your feather, you get your bomb. Make sure you're slamming the bomb into the group, but that's it. This fight is way, way easier for melee compared to ranged and how they need to move, compared to healers and what their dispel setup needs to be and how they're doing that and who's getting Tiger's Lusted. and who's getting freedomed, and there's a whole lot of shit going on in this fight. And the most important thing is that you make sure you're focused on doing your job and that you get your job done correctly every single time. Because other people have jobs that are way worse and more annoying and harder to do. In this fight, more so than any other fight in this tier, is honestly going to be a mental battle, especially when you're starting to prog this. So please, make sure you keep your mental strong. And don't start going, oh, well, this guy fucked it up. Well, this guy fucked it up. People are going to need time to get this fight down right? People are just going to need time. We wiped, I don't know how many times, on just the first platform. Just the first set of mechanics. Because we needed Dispel set. People died to Fire Beams because we didn't have Freedom set, practiced, Tiger's Lusts. All of that stuff. There's a lot going on. So the best thing you can do is just focus on you and make sure your job gets done. Because there's a whole lot of shit that can happen. And we have a very important job of making sure we get our feather and that we blow up the root so people don't die to the fire beams after. That's all we gotta do. Outside of doing boss dam, all we gotta do. But that is how I run this fight. That's where I use my potions. That's how I use my cooldowns. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. I feel like I did a better job in this video than the other Tendril video, so I'll be putting this up and hope this helps you. Thank you.